One of the most frequent questions that I get from my subscribers is how do you convince a left-wing person to become more centrist? How do you talk to them out of it? Because left-wing people, they want you to pay more taxes. They want you to have more things in your life regulated by the government. So how do you talk with them that, look, it's unacceptable, it's not good? And I think I have the answer. It's not about talking. It's about them experiencing the policies on their own skin. And here we have Anna Kasparian, which I think no one will disagree that she's a very left-wing progressive person, finally coming out with some very strong right-wing talking points. A couple of weeks ago, she was coming out against inclusive language, saying that she does not appreciate being called a birthing person, and we shouldn't call women like that. And now she's coming against some of the solutions that the left has advocated for global warming. So let's listen to them and see what we can comment.
The way that it happens is, I know that in California, at least, with the phasing out of gas-powered cars, and they'll probably do the same thing with gas stoves, is they just ban the sale of any new gas-powered cars or any new gas stoves. And so the technology that you have in your home, the gas stove that you have in your home, if it breaks, not only are you not able to buy a new one, but it gets increasingly more difficult to just repair it.
So she's making a really good point, and especially, I don't know how it's like in the United States, but here in Romania, there's a lot of old houses where at the time of them being built, the electricity was designed for the house to have like maybe one television set and one refrigerator. But it definitely wasn't designed for people to have an electric stove, to have a gaming computer, to have a large flat screen TV. And all of these appliances, when put together on that electricity grid, it's going to cause short circuits. So if you happen to inherit your grandmother's home, well, what you need to do is you need to do a full renovation and a rethinking of the electrical system. And that costs a lot of money, and many people will not be able to afford it. So I can only imagine how it would be like if someone has a gas power stove and that breaks, and then they have to get an electrical one, which means that they have to now call an electrician, probably a construction company, to completely redesign their apartment. I mean, that can cost all the way to 6,000 euros in my country. I don't know how much it will be in another place. But it's excruciatingly expensive, and Anna is definitely pointing this out.
You get what I'm saying? And so, like,
I get it, but that's a bump. That's the normal bumps in the road, as you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a billionaire, it is a bump in the road. It's a little bit of inconvenience, like you're going to have to leave your house for a couple of weeks while they remake the electrical thing. You probably have even another house where you can stay during that time. But if you're a poor person, it's not a bump in the road. Like, this is a crisis. This is something that is probably going to traumatize you just thinking about it.
You transition to things.
I know, but Cenk, like, don't minimize the financial burdens associated with these things, okay?
No, I'm not
because, like, I am literally freaking the fuck out.
So I want to point out that Anna, last time I checked, had a net worth of $2 billion. She probably has a lot more now due to inflation, but, like, think about what she is saying. She is saying that a rich person like her is freaking out about the costs. And my question is, like, are you rich as Anna? Because if not, and she's freaking out, boy.
About the charging station thing. I'm like, it's gonna cost, we're gonna take out a massive fucking loan to pay for it. We're not getting any help from the fucking government on that.
Did you guys ask, is there any tax credits? But seriously.
Look at her face. Just look at her face. Like up until now, she was really angry about this issue, and she was like in general angry, but now Cenk just identified himself as the face of her problem. Now she has a target. And look at how nervous Cenk is, right? Like, he reaches for the coffee cup. Like, oh god, like she's going to say this on a members only stream. I hope people don't unsubscribe. I hope people do not think that I hired the right winger.
We're not getting any help from the fucking government on that.
Did you
look at this? Just look at the face, right? Like, when Cenk challenges her, I want you to. It's like immediately zooms in.
Did you guys ask, is there any tax credits?
Like, I wish Even Cheng smiles like he knows he not fucked up. I wish I could see like the frontal view, you know, not the profile thing.
But seriously, seriously, there's no government help at all to transition
I don't
you guys?
give a fuck about tax credits.
No, I'm saying for the HOA. Like,
No, there's been no talk of tax credits. I haven't seen anything about tax credits. I should look into it. Maybe there are tax credits, but I don't give a fuck about.
Why is she constantly cursing like this, man? Like look, if you're going to curse, right, at least use varied vocabulary. Because if you just say fuck as a punctuation sign, it looks like you're a person coming from a very poor neighborhood and you're uneducated. Not because you didn't want to get educated or you're not smart enough, but because your parents couldn't afford. And that I'm pretty sure your parents did afford, so you should have a more rich vocabulary. Like back in the day when you went to Alex Jones and you said, "Get off the stage, you fat fuck." You know, that was good. That was good, because like you tailored the insult according to the gentleman in front of you. Like you looked at Alex Jones and you said, okay, well, if I say this, it will hurt him. Like that was the way you should curse. But if you're just going to use the F word as a punctuation sign and you're not even using any slurs, what are you doing?
Tax credits, because you have to shell out cash. Okay, like I want to do something in response to climate change.
Yeah, of course, just not in your backyard. Just not in your backyard, right? Like, if the people in Texas were dealing with this shit, or the people in European Union were dealing with this shit, I don't think Anna would have been upset. But I get it, because it affects her, and that's what I'm trying to get at through this video, that the way you can convince a left-leaning person is when the policy they advocate for finally reaches them, right? So inclusive language is awesome until she gets to be called a birthing person, and then it's like not as awesome. Advocating for climate change is nice until you have to pay up. Then it's not as nice.
That is not my issue here. My issue is how, like, we're forced to make all these changes that are a financial burden, a giant inconvenience, with like little to no help. And the solution from the government in terms of like, no, you get financial benefits for doing this is fucking tax credits. No, I don't want the tax credits. Give me the money. Give me the money.
Yeah, but Anna, you know, the government doesn't produce money. It doesn't produce wealth. Like, what you're asking for is for the government to tax people like my subscribers and then give you the taxes from my subscribers. Like, that's what you're asking for. The government doesn't produce anything. It just takes money away from people and gives it to others, and occasionally produces inflation. But other than that, no. Like, the government cannot fix this problem for you.
Okay? Don't tell me this bullshit about how I have to buy like some new fucking thing because the government's forcing me to do it. And then like after I file my taxes, there's a certain portion of that purchase that might be tax deductible. Like fuck off. I'm so sick of it. It's just like endless pressure.
Yeah, now you know why right-wingers are angry, Anna, right? Like, if someone lives in a rural area and has to deal with some bullshit legislation that progressive pass, you don't really care, right? Because it doesn't affect you and you're like, oh, why are they so angry? And I noticed the same with immigration. Like, notice how quickly the people from Martha's Vineyard deported how was it, like 39 people that went there? You look at the European Union, Brussels doesn't have much diversity. Even in the United Kingdom, I remember in the beginning stages, I'm pretty sure it must be the same now, but I'm not entirely convinced because I haven't checked it out. Scotland, for instance, right? Like, Scotland didn't receive a lot of migrants. And the people there were very pro-migration for cultural reasons, right? Like, oh, well, you're seen as a good person in society if you advocate for it. But meanwhile, the other people from the areas most affected, well, they were the ones that were voting conservative and they were upset about the cultural clashes that were happening in those areas. And it's the same thing, right? Like when you're separated from the issue, when you're in an ivory tower, you don't really care about what other people have to deal with until it starts to affect you. And when it affects you, then you see how Anna is responding to this.
Pressure. I can't take it.
Yeah, I hear you. And we ask too much of the middle class. We ask too much of the average person.
Oh, the middle class is the most fucked group of people in this country.
She's going to end up on the Daily Wire, isn't she? Like, she's going to sit there with Ben Shapiro and they're just going to agree with each other nonstop. Like, honestly, if she drops the identity politics and just talks about the middle class and stuff like that, like, a lot of right-wingers would listen. I would probably subscribe. Yeah, the middle class, Anna. It is a class issue. I'm finally glad that after so many years of the Young Turks, they're finally getting it. But no, they don't want to have like the middle class, which is united. No, they have to push for identity politics, which gets people to be one against each other rather than realize, oh, well, hold on a little bit. We're all in this together. It's not okay what the government is doing when it creates inflation, when it passes all of these regulations that makes our life miserable and difficult.
No, I hear you on all that. But at some point, we got to go to electric cars. We don't have a choice. Like the plant's burning, so we got to go to electric.
Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! I wish, like, I would pay $10,000. I would stop making my video game right now and just pay all the money for my video game just to find out what Anna is thinking right now. Like, when Cenk Uygur talks about the planet is burning and I see her reaction.
We don't have a choice. Like the plant's burning, so we got to go to electric cars.
I want to know what goes on in her head right now. I want to know. Like, I have a feeling she thought about something which she just cannot say it. She just cannot say it on the members only stream, but God, do I want to know what she's thinking about it.
So when California says, hey, let's go to electric cars by whatever the number is, 2025, etc. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but
yeah, and when
but there's not enough lithium, Cenk. There's not enough lithium for everyone to go on electric cars. Did you know that? Do you realize the price of these electric cars? None of these are being brought up. Like I noticed that there have been research papers after research papers, and there have been even articles in mainstream media outlets talking about how there is not enough lithium for everyone to have an electric car. And yet, for some reason, these are not debunked or addressed. Like, maybe it's false. Maybe it's false. Maybe there is enough lithium for the entire planet to drive electric cars. But I've never seen this being addressed, ever.
At the same time, now prices are coming down, right?
Okay, but Cenk, let's not minimize the cost of like actually charging those cars, right? Because here's the other thing. So Gavin Newsom pushes for and succeeds in passing legislation in California that would ban the sale of electric cars at a certain year. I think it is 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, literally everyone is doing it with 2025. It's almost like this is not grassroots, right? Like in European, like just look at banning banning gas 2025, and you'll see it in European Union. You will see it in certain states in the US. You see the United Nations pushing for it. I don't know why 2025 is the magical fucking number, but well, here we go.
Maybe not. Maybe it's 2035. I don't remember the
I think it's 2035 though. Yeah, I think it's like somewhere in the more distant future.
Exact year, but eventually, pretty soon, you're no longer going to be able to buy a gas-powered car in California. Literally, like that same month, Gavin Newsom's like, oh, there's a heat wave and our energy grid really can't handle it. And so I'm just going to ask you guys, if you have electric vehicles, please don't charge them right now. It's
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they're not doing the infrastructure first is very bizarre, isn't it? It's kind of like if you were to, I don't know, like let's say you want to put solar panels to power your house with electricity, right? And before the solar panels are installed, you cut yourself off from the electricity grid, and now you're in dark. And you're like thinking, well, maybe, you know, in 5 years when the solar panels are done, then I'll have electricity. And the question is like, who does that? Like, why would you do that, right? Like, the normal thing to do is to first build the solar panels, and then you transition to the new form. You don't do it the other way around. But still, you know, the reason I made the video is because I wanted you guys to see how you convince a left-leaning person to become more centrist, like overnight. Just the moment their own policies affect them, that's when they can. Otherwise, there's no way. You know, like you could have had this conversation with Anna 3 years ago, talk about these issues. She wouldn't care, didn't listen. But that's how you do it. So let me know what you guys think. And if you like this video, consider giving a super thanks. And I'll see you in the comment section.